Hello, I am Chase, or Chase.the.Feeling, and I am a musician. I play piano, guitar, ukulele, percussion, handbells, and I'm learning bass, saxophone, and violin right now. And I write and record my own music, and I perform it sometimes blindfolded. I also have autism and ADHD. Now, growing up, I always felt kind of weird and different, but it wasn't until I was 15 or 16 that I was like, hey, I might actually be different. And I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 15, and I am yet to receive a formal diagnosis for autism, but at this point, it's kind of just a piece of paper. It's just telling me what I already know. So I wanted to talk about some of the signs that I exhibited in early childhood and as an early teen before I even knew that I could possibly be on the spectrum. So starting with sensory issues, one of the big ones is definitely light. I've always had an issue with bright lights and going outside. If it's bright out, even today, I wear sunglasses pretty much all the time. I will wear sunglasses over my regular glasses. And whatever sensory issues aren't helped by the fact that I have blue eyes, so no melanin to protect them from the sun's rays, I would have a harder time than a lot of other people holding my eyes open for pictures. You know, if we're facing the sun and they're like, geez, 3, 2, 1. I'm like, you better make that countdown faster, because I'm like, my eyes are closing more and more as we speak. I would even have a hard time falling asleep if there was any light in the room. As a little kid, of course, I needed the door slightly cracked open so the light could come in and keep the monster in the closet. But I eventually got to the point where I needed to sleep in total darkness. And even now, my power strip, it sometimes emits a bit of light, or chargers, they'll emit light, and I have to put a towel over them because I don't want any of the light coming in. The next one, alphabetically, is smell. I never really had issues with smell. Sometimes I would get a headache if I was riding in my brother's car because it smelled like vape and Monster energy drinks. But on the whole, I love smell. I love going into Bath and Body Works or smelling perfumes. I love smelling tea. I'm obsessed with tea. And I go feral for anything that is peppermint scented. I love peppermint. After that is sound. I have a really hard time with really quiet noises. So if I'm in one room and people are if I'm in my room and say my mom and brothers are in the other room and they're talking and I can kind of hear just very slight sounds, it will bother me. It'll bother me so much. When I was younger, I would constantly listen to music. I would constantly listen to CDs in my little CD player. Didn't matter whether it was a 10-minute trip to the grocery store or a 5-hour long car ride. I had my earbuds in listening to my CDs. I hated when I could hear the radio through the headphones, and it wouldn't even be I can hear the song coherently. It's just I can hear some of the syllables, or if somebody turns the radio down really low, and then that's all I can hear. That would always really bother me. And when I would fall asleep, especially at sleepovers, I would hear every sound, like the clock ticking. It would bother me. People rolling around and breathing would bother me. Some people are such loud breathers when they sleep. They're just loud, and I don't know why. And so now I use white noise to sleep. Next is taste. Taste was a big thing. Taste was the source of a lot of my suffering as an autistic child, because I am a picky eater and my father did not like that. So I don't really like cooked vegetables. So bell pepper, broccoli, carrots, cauliflower, celery, cucumber, pickles. I'll like any of those raw, and if you give me a little bit of ranch dressing, I'll be a happy camper. But once you cook them, once you make them warm and mushy and bitter, you're taking everything good about it and making it disgusting. I don't like potatoes in pretty much any form. I mean, I like chips and I sometimes like French fries, but baked potatoes, roasted potatoes, mashed potatoes, I hate mashed potatoes. They're my nemesis, the bane of my existence, my goddamn enemy. And especially the powdered mashed potatoes. Ugh! I lied. I do have a smell that I hate, and that's the smell of those goddamn powdered mashed potatoes. I don't like chili. I don't like mac and cheese because there's too much cheese. I don't like copious amounts of melted cheese. For a while I didn't like grilled cheese. Now I kind of do, but I'm mainly there for the bread. Because of the texture, I don't like smoothies or milkshakes or stuff like pudding or soft serve ice cream. I like things to be either liquid or solid. It's like, pick one, pick a lane and stick with it. I don't really like the in-between textures. What might surprise people is that I didn't really like pizza and soda. I didn't like pizza because I don't like tomatoes and I don't like the tomato sauce and I didn't like the melted cheese. Now I like pizza sometimes. I like it more if there's thick crust. I didn't like hamburgers because I don't like condiments. Ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, go to hell. I hate them. So now if I'm getting a burger, I'm getting that plain. And I didn't like soda because of the carbonation. I didn't like pie because of the texture. Some foods that I once hated but now have grown to love include salad. I didn't like salad because of the dressing, but then once I realized you can get dressing on the side, world changed. Yogurt, I don't like the texture of yogurt, but if I mix cereal into it, it tastes pretty good because it's like crunchy. And eggs, I didn't like eggs. Then in 7th grade, I started eating eggs, and then I would like eat eggs every single day. And then I stopped eating eggs. Then I started eating them every single day. And then I stopped eating eggs. And then I started. Taste was a big issue as a kid. My dad would cook these meals, and I wouldn't really like them. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If your kid has not liked mashed potatoes and peas the first 9 times you gave it to them, what makes you think they're going to like mashed potatoes and peas on the 10th time? Is it just because you're so special and magical? And so I would have a pretty hard time finishing a lot of my meals, and then my dad would be like, there are starving children in Africa who would like slit their mother's throat just for a bite of that food. And if I didn't finish it, he'd usually ground me. No! And if I did finish it, he'd be like, so how was it? And I'd be like, I didn't like it that much. Because I'm honest and truthful. And he would talk about how ungrateful I am. And I'm like, you wanted me to lie? Is that like, what did you want me to tell you? I don't like it. So, don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle the answer to. Lastly is touch, which has also been a big thing. Before I trans my gender and became a David Bowie impersonator, I used to have like really long hair. In middle school, it was generally 2 feet long, but I've always had long hair and it would get pretty tangled. And my mom would try to brush it and it would feel like she was ripping my scalp off, and I would scream bloody murder, sensitive scalp. I also have had a lot of issues with clothing. Fuck denim. I hate denim. Never liked it. Denim can go die. Denim is my enemy. It's my denemy. Sometimes wearing leggings would like make my legs like tingly and itchy, and I would thrash around. Certain cotton clothes can be too scratchy or itchy. I didn't like wearing, jeans or pants. And so I'd like always wear shorts. And when I eventually went into middle school, I was rocking the Bermuda shorts. Don't let anybody tell you they don't look good. Despite the fact that I hated having my hair brushed, I loved playing with my hair and I loved having soft hair. I would constantly be twirling it like this, and it's too short to do it now, but I would play with my hair with my mouth. I would love to touch my mom's hair because her hair was really soft. In middle school, I started touching other people's hair. I had a friend in percussion who had really soft hair, and she was fine with me just like coming up and just like petting her hair. In gym in 6th grade, I was friends with a black girl and I asked if I could touch her hair. And I know you're not supposed to ask a black person if you can touch her hair, but this had very little to do with race. I would ask a white person to touch their hair. I wanted to touch the hair. I wanted to experience the texture. And she was chill with it. She let me touch her hair, and then she touched mine. She was like, oh, it's so soft. And so along a similar line of clothing and sensory issues, because I had these issues with clothes, like I would end up wearing the same clothes pretty much every day. And now we're into repetition and restriction. And this isn't like where I have multiple like sets of the same item. and it's like my uniform that I wear every day. Like, no, I would have an outfit and then I would like wear it for 2 weeks straight. I didn't see the point in washing it because it's like, it's not dirty. Where's the dirt? Show me the dirt on the clothes. You can't. It's not there. So it's not dirty. I think my record was 3 weeks. It was these dark olive green shorts and a light pink shirt with a silver heart. I loved those dark green olive shorts more than my own life, and one day they got a hole and my mom said she would fix them and I never saw them again. I can't imagine why. But even when I started middle school, the Bermuda shorts that I had this really comfy pair and I wore them pretty much all the time. And one week I wore them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it came Friday and my mom was like, you need to wear a different pair of shorts. You need to change. Midway through my 8th grade year, my dad got me these Bermuda shorts from Columbia that were like these kind of fish gear type pants, and they were so comfortable, and I started wearing them every day. And now my one true love of clothing is the Magellan fish gear from Academy. I have the pants right now. These are the boys size large convertible shorts. I love convertible shorts because you can wear pants and then you can make them shorts. They are the perfect article of clothing for Texas. Because if I'm inside, like in class or at work or something, and I want to wear pants and look professional, I can do that. But once I get outside and once I get to my hot car, I can zip them off and then I'm free. I've always had a lot of repetitive movements. I was always fidgeting, picking at my nails, cracking my knuckles. Oh, they call me Rice Krispie treats. I would also make weird noises, just like just constantly doing that. Or I would kind of like rattle my teeth around on the inside of my mouth, like. You probably couldn't see that, but I was like. When I was younger, I would run around the house naked. I still run around the house, though I do it with my clothes on. And I would sing all the time. I would sing in the grocery store. And, my parents and brothers would be like, no, don't do that. And they're like, no, don't be singing in public. I'm like, are people bothered? Like, I don't see why it's such a bad thing. I also made my own sign language alphabet, and sometimes I would spell out words with it. I was big on rule following. I was always like a straight A, goody two shoes until COVID hit and I became depressed, and then I started smoking weed in sophomore year. But I saw a clip of like cuss words being beeped out, and then when my brothers would cuss and stuff, I would be like, beep. And I did this a couple times in middle school. I'm not proud of that. Another thing that I did when I started public school that I'm not proud of, my mom was a communications major and she's very well spoken, and she taught me to speak with correct grammar, use correct punctuation when texting. I was that person who put a period at the end of a one-word text, and I didn't see what was weird about that. And I also didn't understand why people might be bothered by me giving them unsolicited grammar advice. If they're saying me and my mom went to the movies, I'd be like, oh, my mom and I. Or it's before a cross country meet and they're like, you're gonna do so good. I'm like, I'm gonna do well. So, but I didn't understand like why they would be bothered, because it's like because in my mind I thought I was just trying to help. There's a quote in what I mean by when I say I'm autistic that I think I'll put on screen, but it's basically saying when I would correct people, I wasn't trying to assert power or flex on them or something. I was just trying to help them. I wanted to do stuff for the environment. I read a Girl Scout book that said, turn off lights when you're not in the room, and I took that shit to heart. I was constantly turning out lights in the house. When someone leaves the room, I'm going in behind them and I'm closing and I'm turning off the lights. Sometimes I would turn off the lights in rooms that people were still in, but if it's like the downstairs dining room and the window was open and light was coming through the window, I'd be like, well, that's enough light, because as we've previously established, I am very good at knowing what is a good amount of light. I never have issues with thinking something is too bright. So if I think there's enough light in the room, obviously. When I was washing my hands, brushing my teeth, washing dishes, I would turn off the water like periodically, I'll turn on the water, get my hands lathered up, then I'll turn it off to get soap and then like actually scrub my hands, then to turn it back on. And I don't know why people don't do that. Another crazy thing, I take military showers. Not real military showers, because in those they're like, okay, you have 5 minutes, go. But I turn on the water and then I like get in and I get soaked, and then I'll turn it off to actually do stuff I need to do, like conditioner, face wash, and body wash, and then I'll turn it back off on at the end to rinse. I have very intense interests, and I've never been interested in popular things. I've never liked watching sports. I've never liked popular music. I didn't watch the popular movie series, but I did become obsessed with other pieces of fiction like Warriors. I started reading Warriors in 4th grade, and it has been a persistent presence in my life ever since. I want to say like 70 books. And that's not even all the books that they have out. And in 6th grade, when I started listening to musicals, I kind of became insufferable because I was just like, oh, I like this musical. Now you need to like this musical. You need to listen to this musical and like it. And I have always been obsessed with music. That's definitely my special interest. I've been playing instruments for 12 years. I've been writing songs for about as long, and it's the only thing I want to do with my life. I'm very fascinated by music theory and stuff like that. I love the math and the numbers associated with music. I want to play as many instruments as I can, and I just want to be good. I want to be amazing and the best at it. So social issues, I think when I was younger, I had a hard time making eye contact. I don't know if it was an autism thing or maybe it was an ADHD thing, because I feel like it was more of me like kind of being bored and glancing around the room. Though now sometimes I notice if I'm taking an order, because I work as a barista, I'll look at the person like in the shoulder or something, but I won't really look them in the eyes. And I would sometimes just use grunts to communicate. If somebody knocks on the door and I'm in the bathroom, I'm not like, just a minute, or occupied. I'm like, People would always say that I'm so articulate, or I express myself very well, I carry myself, I'm put together, probably because of my communications major mother. She done learn me how to talk good, but from a young age I've had a pretty advanced vocabulary, and I also have issues with tone. I've had a very advanced vocabulary, and then my tone, it can either be like pretty monotone and flat, or depending on what I'm talking about, it can be very like excited, up and down, and animated, but it is very, very rarely what one would consider normal. I would have a hard time with understanding tone and understanding jokes, or people knowing when I'm joking. Sometimes my tone would be considered rude and I wouldn't know why. Like if I said something to my mom and she'd be like, what? And I'd say it again and she still couldn't hear me. And like I would say it, the third time I say it a bit more pronounced and a bit louder. And she's like, you don't need to take a tone. I'm like, I'm not trying to take a tone. I'm just trying to make sure you hear me and understand me and comprehend me. So those are kind of some of the things that I did as a kid that, looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was weird. Those are things that most people didn't do. And in addition to that, I have always felt like an outsider or a loner. I felt like there's everyone else and then there's me. Just kind of like I'm just walled out from the rest of society and humanity. I always felt like other people got a manual on how to do it. Like other people, they just got it and they just understood it, and I didn't. And I felt like Frankenstein's monster on the other side of the wall at the DeLacy's, where he can hear their conversations and he knows what's going on and he knows them and he loves the family, but he's on the other side of a wall from them. And so he can experience human emotion and comprehend all of it, but he is never part of society. And I've always kind of felt like that. I've always just felt like, there's everyone else, and then there's Chase. Oh, that's just Chase being weird. Oh, that's Chase. He's adopted. I live with it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I feel like I am who I am because of the autism, and I like who I am. I can't imagine how my life would be if I was neurotypical. And, you know, my friends have told me, they're like, I love whatever is wrong with you. And you know what? I love it too. So I'm gonna try to upload more on this YouTube channel. I'm filming this on November 8th, 2025. The raw video in its own is only 36 minutes right now. So, I want it out by Wednesday. What day? Okay. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I want it out by Wednesday. So if it's not out by Wednesday, November 12th, you can flame me in the comments. And if you want to experience more of my quirkiness, more of my autism, you can check out the rest of my channel where I post my music. And I have a Christmas song that's coming out soon. It's called Christmas Songs Weren't Written in Texas, and it's about how it never snows here. With that, I bid you adieu. I will not see you, but you shall see me in the next video. And goodbye, be a dynamic character. Hello, I am Chase, and I am a musician. Fuck! I say way too much. Fuck! Fuck! I am a musician. I write and compose my own songs, and I perform them. I have, even now, I have trouble. Fuck! No! Move! Now, before I decided to trans my gender and become a David Bowie impersonator, I